Welcome, Prashanth, and thank you so much for being with us today to discuss some very critical points on this current situation as a photographer, and obviously also somebody. I mean, this is very new for all of us. It's not something we had ever anticipated that we would be witnessing during the course of this lifetime. And in a way, it's good to sort of sit and reflect while we are under this lockdown as to what our work means, how are people's lives getting affected, how are we going to realign ourselves as the result of this pandemic. And coming to photography per se, I'd just like to give a quick introduction to Prashanth just for our audiences. Prashanth Vishwanathan is a visual communicator working in the development sector, and he works on various news assignment stories from all across India. He's been working professionally in the field since 2006, and he's worked for various newswires like Reuters, Bloomberg, Getty, many international publications and dailies like New York Times, the National, Forbes, Businessweek, and also for a lot of non-government organizations like UNDP, Save the Children, International Labour Organization, ActionAid, among other ones.
Yeah.
But how has it been overall for you? Like, do you like, other than the few assignments that you've gone and shot, have you like really been stepping out or just been at home?
So it has not been the same at all because everybody is shut. So this is one of those situations that you not only you are not working, nobody's working too. So it's like you go and start working. Where are the jobs? Who's working? Who's on the job? So there's nobody right now. And the two reasons for that. One is that there is a panic, a global panic of what's going to happen. Secondly, there was already an economic recession on the way, which I think we are forgetting that we may completely.
And it's got escalated, yeah.
It was already on its way, and it was increasing every day. And today, I think the two together is what is affecting us more, because we have to understand where photography stands in the pyramid of or a structure of a society, right? Photography stands as an art form, of course, but it also generates value of representing something in a certain way. For example, food photography for restaurants, or fashion photography for clothes, or news photography for media, or documentary photography for magazines or media. There is some value generation in the process, right? That is why you get work. If you don't generate value, I don't think anybody's going to pay. And the problem with today's, there's a bigger issue of mobile phone cameras, easy access to photography, democratization of photography, etc., leading to a downturn or lessening of also the supply of photographers. There are 1,000 photographers emerging every year, and there is only 100 clients who are always there, and out of which 50 are shut down now, and now all 100 are shut. So now there is a lot of supply, very less demand, prices are bound to fall. So our day rates and everything is always in question nowadays, right? So it's like, how much do you charge? What is the right price? Those are bigger questions. But in this downturn, I think things are going to change post this. Because now everything will be taken at the real value for a while at least, before we come back to the artificiality of our lives that we were living till today. Everyone is questioning because 21 days in the house is making everyone think, organic farming karte hain. This is like a common thing I'm hearing across a lot of people because they're questioning their existence, they're living the way of life. So that's like a global phenomenon. But as a photographer, I think there was a reason I became a news photographer or a documentary photographer, I call myself so, because I wanted to tell stories, I wanted to tell true stories, I wanted to go out there, maybe take a few risks and do stuff realistically, etc., and then comes this pandemic.
So Prashanth, now you have a production company of your own, which is called J. Production, where you direct films for corporate social responsibility and for other, international non-government agencies and stuff. Could you maybe tell us a little bit more about your work and your practice?
Okay. Hi all. So I would say that I'm a freelance photographer. After all that I heard, so I'm a freelance photographer. So as a freelancer, I started off in 2006. Um, and I would say I had a lucky start because at that time there were a lot of demand for freelance photography and photographers and photography. So there used to be a lot of assignments that came in from 2006 to I think 2012 was a very good period of freelance photography. Post which I think with the two recessions, 7 and 12, the kind of market changed. The camera became much more powerful on mobile, and the world is a little bit changed now. Someone coming in right now as a freelance photographer, I don't know what advice I would give. But given that, so all these publications that you mentioned, I have freelanced for, and a lot of different perspectives you get as a photographer once you work for news and magazine work. So, and that perspective actually gives you uh, experience in various fields you may not otherwise achieve, on a regular job. So that is the advantage that I have had, luckily for me and luckily for, I thank stars. But having said that, I think now today the major source of all photographers, photography assignments have a video element to it. Filmmaking has become an integral part of photography. Storytelling has become a baseline for the single image concept. Maybe is still true in certain newspaper jobs as well as agencies, but as a holistic photographer, you need to look at it as a filmmaker or a storyteller or a multimedia artist or whatever you can call yourself, but you're doing more than one format in one go. So so I would say that even today, I don't know what to call myself. I started with photography. My visual grammar is photojournalism and documentary, where I don't post, I don't talk to subjects. I do talk to subjects, get used to them, but I don't like direct subjects, and I use natural light for shooting my bread and butter photography.
Thanks for that, Prashanth. Uh, Tell us now, with the current scenario that's going on, how are agencies like reaching out to you? What are they expecting out of you as a photographer on the ground? What are the challenges that you have faced? And I'm just going to put all the questions out there. And obviously, the bigger question: how, and what kind of ethics are you keeping in mind when you're on the field? And maybe I will try not to interrupt you more with any questions at the moment. For our audiences who have any questions, please share them with us in the Q&A section, and we will respond to them at the end once Prashanth has shared some of his work on the COVID-19, and we will respond to those questions then. So Prashanth, I hand over the sort of, discussion to you. And please share with us how over this last month, how have things been?
Okay, thank you. So I have been out to shoot things around COVID for twice till today, and a few documents or a few things I procured online from one team of BBC journalists who covered this epidemic for the last 3 months. There was a Facebook post by one of them and I'm going to share that link with you guys as I go on ahead. Has become my baseline of the way I work when I get out of the house. So COVID is apparently very, very, very easily spread, and it could be all around you. You never know. So the baseline is not to touch your face, not to touch your eyes, ears without a mask when you're out, and your hands are to be washed. So these are instructions and guidelines you have been hearing all the time. So I'm going to address a few other things before we reach the a point of where I would say that this is what I want to share about what you do when you get out of COVID. I'm just going to start off with. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to start a keynote.
Sure.
Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So, documenting a pandemic. So, first question that I would ask myself is why? Why do you want to document a pandemic? So when I asked this question, when I was supposed to talk about this session in the session, so the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of photography is a photographer that inspires me, who is James Natchway, and this line of his, which is very important for me as a guiding principle, is that I have been a witness, and these are pictures. These pictures are my testimony. The events I have recorded should not be forgotten and must not be repeated. So James Natchway is a war photographer, and many of us, you must have seen his book called The Inferno, and he has been a war photographer for 60 years or 50 years, I'm not sure, but a very big veteran in the field. So I was mentoring under a photographer in Bombay, and I was very inspired by James Natchway, and I was telling him I want to go shoot war and this and that. And a senior photographer and a very good photographer at that told me one line. He said, there are only two kinds of war photographers. There are good war photographers and there are dead war photographers. So he said, what is more important, it's not war photography. It's about keeping safe and being able to tell stories all your life. So taking that advice from him, I would say that going out in bravado, just to be brave that I want to cover this because it's historic, I would say is not the best thought process. The why is very important. Why you want to do it. So if I still feel yes, I want to cover it because I think it's very important story to be told. I can tell it in a different way. I have access to a hospital. I don't know what is the reason. Everyone has a different reason of the why. Then remember you have to survive it, and that's the baseline. Safety first. Safe. If something is unsafe, leave it. The authorities are reacting to a huge death toll world over. It's not like few people have died and everybody's panicking. Thousands and thousands of people are dying, regularly on this, and in countries where medical systems are superb. So I would rather say that safety first is the first rule I would like. Why you want to do and keep the safety in mind. The other thing that I like about the issue with photography, and it's a bigger argument. I think that's a big is that tragedy and violence make powerful images, and this is something that I keep questioning. That am I maintaining dignity or not? Actually, Suchi earlier today shared a very good article on how Ebola was covered in Africa versus how this whole pandemic is being covered. Italy has so many deaths, Spain has so many deaths, America has so many deaths, but you don't see dead bodies, you don't see white. Caucasian, people crying and having. So there is this huge disparity in the way we cover as a photographer. So there are those ethical things we talk about in soon. So you understand. Also, one more thing that we forget, that every time you go into a situation like this, your own emotional balance and your own, you're also traumatized a bit by it, right? So it's very important. It's the same rule for riots, wars, all that. So you have to understand it's a war zone. It's no longer just an assignment where I took two cameras and I'm thinking what angle I'll shoot. What you shoot is what you get, and it's very important to know that pushing a limit in this kind of a shoot may not be the best practice. So how do you protect yourself? We will discuss as we go ahead. So one reason that I feel this should be covered is all countries are trying to control the numbers, the media, the what do you say, the news, right? So like this is an AP report which said the cacophony of coughing and war zone like condition in New York received DRs. The cover of Thursday New York Post featured a photo of 3 nurses who had restored to wearing garbage brought bags to protect themselves. And then the president lashed out saying, lame mainstream media. So this is happening in the US, right? So this is one article where they're talking about how the establishment is discrediting the reality. Like today in India, we are also saying that the news and the numbers will come from the government itself and not from the real situation. So there are reasons why you want to do it. So this is something that I just give an example why I would like to do it, because I want to see what is really happening on the field. How are they prepared? Where are the stadiums? Where are the railway stations? So I don't want to go and shoot where the COVID is happening, but the preparation around. So then the next question I would ask myself is, are we equipped, right? Do we have the right amount of, it's called PPE, personal protective equipment, PPE. Do we have the right PPEs, right? So this is an example where a photographer who used to live in Delhi, by the way, Daniel Belwa, went to cover Ebola in 2014-15. He won the Pulitzer Fund. Okay, so there is that. The Belwag is talking about what he did. So he went armed with 300 pairs of gloves, 35 PPE suits, goggles, surgical face masks, hand sanitizers, and countless rolls of tape. Tape is to tape the edges of all these dresses. And then he went into a training where he saw NGO staff members and hospital staff sealing of every single part of the body so nothing is exposed, taping of edges of PPE. So we are not yet here. This will happen if you're going into when the pandemic hits and every village or we don't know if it has spread and people are dying on the houses, right? So then if you have to go, you have to protect yourself this way. So do we have this kind of equipment? Do we have this kind of support system to go and do it? Then there's also this. It's called, once you're out of this place, what do you do to clean yourself up? So he had to dunk all his clothes into chlorine, and I have heard the story that he also discarded his equipment before he came back from there because Ebola spreads a lot. So COVID is not Ebola; it's a different disease, but it's the same family, and there's much milder symptoms of Ebola, but they're very similar in the way they are transmitted. So the lessons from Ebola are very important to use for COVID. A lot of initial Wuhan journalists used the lessons from Ebola for understanding how they have to protect themselves, right? So the Wuhan example is here. So basically, there are three things he's talking about. I will be sharing all this presentation as well as all these links on to the chat window once I'm done right now. Okay, even on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Because that will help you to read through how they're talking. But few things from the Wuhan example. So he was here for 3 months, right? 3 months in this COVID environment. Here is a journalist who has filmed. He was a film maker, and he did not get corona. And he is explaining to us how he did it, right? So he says, every day I do a temperature monitoring of ourselves because he was going out every day. So if every day you're going out, then you check every day your temperature. Every day you need to have new latex gloves, new face masks, and wash hands in and out of the house, right? Then while photographing and filming, he says, should I take this interview or not? Should I take this portrait or not? Is it must that I need to go into a hospital and shoot, right? So do you need to shoot it at all? This is a very important question one need to ask ourselves. How much risk are we putting? If any of us has any elderly person in the family where you have to go back to 65 plus, or any young child below, I think 10 years or 7 years, I'm not sure, I need to find out that. Please don't go. Unless you have another space to go and stay for the next 14 days, because you will be making them vulnerable, and that is something, a call that personally you have to take, right? So I would say that I do not have anybody in that age group in my house, so I would rather go out and come back, right? So can it be done offline? So many things during this many session, many photography content would be generated like this workshop, right? 2 years ago, I traveled to Chennai to give this talk or some talk like this, right? So now we're doing it online on a software. So things are going to change like this, really change. So being offline is not bad, and it will be acceptable practices to take even photos in the future, right? Clean your kit. While I went out 2 times, my kit was wiped down in a given day's duration at least 7 to 8 times with sanitizer. So I have bought an alcoholic mix, do it yourself. So you're getting the alcohol. So you get a do-it-yourself kit. I make my own sanitizer and I carry it with me with a small, tissue paper, right? Okay. Then clean your devices, wipe it down. So the Wuhan journalist says wipe down your car keys, wipe down your car doors, use your own vehicle, don't take taxis. You don't know who has sat in the taxi, who has coughed into it, all that is very important. No share of headphones, earpieces, lenses, water bottles, lens caps. Please don't share on a shoot. You don't know where it went, what it has touched, because it's a surface-oriented, the danger zone. Now, if you are entering into a hospital or any of that kind of shoot, right, you have to look at that, do a self-health assessment. You can affect people back at home, and you have to wear a hazmat suit. So the suit which Daniel mentioned before, PPE, is like a whole body suit with sealed edges, and you have to wear that. If you don't have it, please don't be brave and get into a hospital ward. You will be getting the COVID back home or wherever, whoever you are affected. The issue is that COVID is not a life-threatening disease for everyone, but it is a life-threatening disease for many. So we don't know whom we are going to actually kill if you're not careful. So that is a big issue, right? So there is this another thing that I would say, that photography is considered, an act of the privilege, right? So when imagine today, till now, people who have been infected by COVID are people in a higher state of income, very, rich, foreign traveling people who have got this disease in India. But now the disease is going to go into the rural masses. It is spreading, as we can hear now, right? And it's very important for us to keep that the knowledge that we are privileged, we have spread it, and there could be a resistance from their side, which we can also see a bit already, and there could be wrong representation of them. So it is very, very important that we think about it, that how are we showing someone, the dignity of the person affected, and also the implications it can have on that person. The person may say, it's okay, you show my face, I don't care, but that's not important. You have to take the call. And if someone is very, very aware that yes, my photo is being taken for this purpose, and you're going to show as I am infected or non-infected or can be infected or whatever, and this is how it will look, then and then I give a return or a proper permission, then it's a different deal altogether. Even then, you have to explain where all this image will go, what all can happen. It's very important that you guys, as a photographer, as a filmmaker, or as a writer, you're very ethically sound on these things, right? So going ahead from here, there is this ethics document of NPPA that I have read for the last 15 years of my photography career. So it has never left me, and it changes a bit. So there is this one line from there, but the link is here below. Please go and read it. Treat all subjects with respect and dignity. Give special consideration to vulnerable subjects and compassion to victims of crime and tragedy. Intrude on private moments of grief only when the public has an overriding and justifiable need to see. It's very, very important that we understand this, because a lot of photography today has a lot of photography, I wouldn't say all, has driven away from this path, and a lot of dignity is not maintained, and it's not the best practice. In the long run, for a body of work to develop, the more ethical and straightforward you are, the more people will trust you with their photography. So it's something that it helps you as a photojournalist or a documentary photographer. This approach.
Do you have some of your maybe work that you can show us? Some images or something? Is it possible?
I'm showing it on the laptop, computer. I'm going to show it online. I'll just share the screen again. 1 second.
Okay, sure. And maybe you can talk a little bit about those specific moments, or the place where you were at, just to give a little context.
For example, I went on the day when the whole shutdown had happened, right? So that day was nicely socially distant. I'm going to just share something that I
Sorry, I'm just going to come in for a quick minute. Everybody who has joined us for this webinar, if you have any questions, please share them with us. In a little bit, we will start looking and answering at them. Thanks. Yeah, Prashanth, please continue.
Yeah, is the screen again on?
No, not really.
Huh?
It's a blank. No, not yet.
No.
Yes, now.
Okay, so this is just a search of my name and Corona. I think there are some images here on Getty images. So everybody can see it, right? It doesn't require a login. So these are initial days when the lockdown just began. So we went around the city, shooting people wearing masks, getting, the cities are still on at that point of time. So even then, right, even at that point of time, I was aware what Corona was doing and how it was spreading. So I kept my distance. It's not very close photography like the way I do. But hand sanitizer and face masks were all, oh, sorry. What happened? Were all under this. So then comes the lockdown day. Can you see as I'm scrolling down?
Yeah, but I think you need to go a little slower because it's going very fast.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, if you don't put it on the slideshow mode or...
No, this is online, huh? So
Okay.
I'm going to go slow.
Yeah.
So when you tell a story, there are layers to it, and this kind of story is told over a period of time. So on day one, when I went, people are still moving around, people are wearing masks, right? So you can see these, some people wearing masks, some are not wearing masks, These are the days when Delhi was still open. So this is before, I think the date of the shoot here would be 11th March, right? Before the actually we shut down or locked down. So we didn't know what the government would do. And then on the day, when I click on this image, can you see the big image here?
No.
It's still the same, right? The smaller.
Yeah, okay. It's the grid. Yeah, we can only see the grid of images.
Okay, I'm going to show it like this. Now can you see?
Yes.
So this is the lockdown day, and then everything is empty. So this same street on a Sunday, this is a Sunday actually on 22nd. And I know it's some pricing is written, but that photographers don't get 1/10 of that. Okay, so I'm just trying to say that. This Google images pricing, whatever. So these are all like the shutdown scenes. Suddenly, the city had gone down. So when I walked around this city, I was looking for posters which has COVID-19 written on it. So it's a very simple shoot. The reason it's also a bit of dry as a shoot is because I am predominantly a people shooter, and when there are no people on the street, I literally flip. So I try my best to make it more interesting. Then what happened is I go to the India Gate and I find one person spraying the gate, spraying the barriers around India Gate, right? So I think the image, I'm going to open the image again. Sorry. I'm going to open that image that I want to show. So, yeah. You can call it luck or you can call it whatever this timing. So I was not very sure what I'm going to get there, but I'm going to share the screen. Okay, I need to get better hang of Zoom for sure. Oh yeah, here. Yeah. So this was a BSF Jawan who was trying to sanitize the place around Rashtrapati Bhavan, and police people standing with flowers to. So the story. This is just the beginning, right? So the story is building right now. So this is just the beginning, first few shots of things happening all around the city. And slowly the evening unfolded, the railway stations got shut down, bus stands got shut down, so the story continued that way. Can you see a screen now or you cannot?
Not
Now you
yet.
can, right? Okay, one second. I'm just going to go back to this mode. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm coming back here. So if you come to this, there's a Monuments are shut, the CP shut, the market, the spice market is shut. Then the evening cacophony begins, right? The 5 o'clock. We start banging it. Though in between, I met some cops who were explaining to people to go back home, wear gloves. So it's just the beginning, right? This is before even what it is today. This is on 22nd of March. Now we are 8 days down, right? So market shut. So the story today is as of today stands right here. Now the story will more unfold in village situations. From so now my next assignment, that is next week, um, is to go for a what do you say shoot to see if wheat production is back on track or not. So I'm going to go to these mandis around Delhi to see wheat production is back, business is coming back or not. What is happening. So maybe next week, end of the week, we'll try and get out of the city, which is not very easy because people are stopping us. But we have some kind of letter and access. Let's see that works. Yeah. So anything? I would like to see some questions if there is a there are any.
Right. I just wanted to maybe ask one more question and then we'll start answering the questions we receive. As a freelance photographer, permissions is usually a big hurdle at times, especially during crisis situations or when it's dealing with, political places or people. How do you navigate something like that? And what does that, and in spite of maybe sometimes getting permissions for the agencies or the commissioning publications that you work for, does that really help you get your foot in the door and, go out there and still manage to get the photographs that you need?
Okay. Few things here. See, when it gets very political, right? You need some kind of backing. As a freelance photographer, let's not talk as a job, right? So job has their own backing. They get medical insurance, they get a lot of support, but as a freelance photographer, you don't have all that. Also, your equipment is your own, and the risk is your own. So that's a big no. Like it's a thought process that you need to come out. So you have to take your, you have to make a choice. What is important? For example, if you are running behind every big event in this country, one of my freelance photographer friends once told me, like, competing for the space against every event that's happening in the country is like, these agencies like Reuters, AP, and EPA and others, and also these Hindustan Times and Times of India are all like bullet trains. They have photographers everywhere in this country. They go cover everything that is important, right? But we are like, racing them in a bullock cart. We don't have the wherewithal. We don't have the that kind of a network to understand, even know what is happening where and how fast things unfold, right? But having said that, we need to take our chances and our calls. It's very important that the why comes into play. Why you want to do it and what are the things that you want to do. So, for example, I don't say any no to anything that is environmental related. I say everything. I love environment. I want to do environmental photography, and I never say no. So whatever comes my way in environment, I do it. However political it is, however dangerous it is. I was in lane -17, and I was advised by the editor himself that it is not advised to go, but we want to go because we want to do the story. And I said I'm going because it's just something that I like. But having said that, would I be putting that effort to do something else political? May not. So those are calls you take as an individual. Very important. Secondly, once you're in the field, you're committed to the assignment, you put your 100% effort to get out and get the story correct. That's the baseline. Your integrity and ethics are far more important than even the organization's integrity. I don't care. I have actually, for 2 NGOs, shut down their programs because they were lying. I have come back and said, I don't like what I see. These are the realities, and I have shown it to their head office, and they have shut the programs down, which is commendable. Because I don't care if I get paid or not, but I am not going to tell lies. I'm not going to tell anything that is not right. So that's very important for me. That's me. So that is my nature. So everybody understand yourself and work accordingly, because everybody works in different constraints than me. So I'm not going to say that this is the baseline. No, it's not. It's hardly the baseline, because there are a lot of layers and layers of decisions that you make before you get out there to shoot. But political situations, war zones, riot-like situations, read up, study, have your backups in place, and train. There are a lot of training sessions done by a lot of these freelancing companies for you to train in case you fall into trouble. What do you do? Right? So there are people who train. It may be an online training, but at least some pointers there would help you to get out of situations where if you God forbid you get it. Right? So it's very important that you train, you prepare, you read a lot about what you're going to get out for. Like I have been reading about COVID and photographers and filmmakers and Ebola for the last 15 days, but I've only gone out thrice. So it's like I'm not still stopping, because I know next time I'm going, it's going to be much worse spread, right? So I don't have an hazmat suit. So how far should I be so that I don't get it? So all those kind of questions I keep reading up every day. So it's very important. Yeah, sorry. Did it answer the question?
I think you did quite elaboratively. And also the question comes, that as a freelance photographer who might not have access to networks the way photographers have when they belong to a publication, there are already existing networks that help them out with information, with sort of tips, about what's happening where. But for a freelance photographer, a lot of that research, a lot of that network, the human network, on the ground level has to be built on your own. So can you share maybe certain tips or certain thoughts over there? How like, especially with a lot of photographers, I've seen that people get very fascinated by shooting war-like scenarios, or any protests, and it's very exciting. But going in, as you said, like what is the reason you're going in for? How are you going to protect yourself? What are you really falling back on, at the end of the day? So I think where I would like for you to tell us is that how does somebody like that establish networks on the ground to keep themselves safe?
Okay. There is a lot of help. Generally, you do get a lot of help, right? It depends a lot upon how are you approaching people. It's the grammar of your body language, the grammar of your thought itself, how compassionate you are on a given situation, and how true to the actual news you are changes a lot of energy around you. And this helps. So this is why at one level, at a personal level, at a official or a networking level, right? There, I want to ask a counter question to freelance photographers. I have asked this question to myself also. Is this? How does a reporter figure out where to go? How does a reporter figure out that auntie will answer and this uncle won't answer? They always figure out. They always get a quota. How does a reporter know the thanedar, the police wala, the local politician, and one local fixer who's walking with you when you're going to shoot, but a photographer cannot? So this happened to me 15 years ago. I started off with an agency, and I quit within 6 to 8 months because I was young and I was headstrong. Maybe I would never do it again, and I would have kept the job forever if even one more year older. But I left. I was just too young, and I was like, I'm better. I'm too good, but I wasn't, and I'm sorry that I was like that at that point of time. But what happened because of that is I got thrown into this sharp waters of freelance photography internationally, and international photojournalists figure out everything. They figure out a fixer, they figure out the writer, they figure out the storytelling aspects to it, they figure out access, They figure out number of days to shoot. They figure out equipment. They figure out grammar of shooting. So they do that. And we don't. And there is a lot of us who don't. And that is the big difference between us and them. That is the reason we don't get assignment. Like for example, I have one assignment which is in the back burner right now because I said I just want to give it some time and I will do it a little more later. There is one international paper that wants to do a story on a 70 to 80-year-old couple who are just living quarantine a day in their life. Right? That's all they have told me. I will go figure out the couple. I'll make sure their age group matches. I'll get the access. I will explain to them. I will get their permission form sorted. And I will go live with them for 3 days and do a one-day story. Right? Nobody is going to help me out. I may do it with my next door neighbor or go somewhere and do it. Doesn't matter. What matters is that the research and the finding out is mine. I'm not doing it because I don't have the equipment, the right equipment for not giving them COVID. So what I am deciding that if I want to do this assignment, so this is where my personal responsibility comes in, is that the last time I will move out of this house, which will be I think for the week assignment next week, I will go and do this assignment 14 days later. So that there is no chance that I will infect them. And for 14 days, I will self-quarantine. So this is my call. This is the knowledge I have right now reading WHO and all these guys. So tomorrow if they say 21 days is the quarantine, then 21 days I'll have to set up. If I want to do that assignment with a couple who are themselves being safe, but I want to show how they're living in a day-to-day situation, it's not easy, right? It's not right. So these kind of things you'll have to research. You'll have to do it here. It's not easy. It's not going to come in a plate anymore. And with this COVID thing, though, I think it's going to literally be us researching from our computers in our rooms and then doing stuff. It's
pretty
not
much what we are doing right now,
right.
Like talking to each other and also reading up a lot and not relying just on maybe WhatsApp messages, which a lot of people do. I'm going to, Prashanth, quickly go to the question and answer section because a few people have asked us some questions. Also, just to let our audiences know, those who are not familiar with Zoom, there is a Q&A box. Depending on whether you're using Zoom on your phone or on your laptop. If it's on your laptop, it's usually at the bottom, and on the phone, it's on the top. So please post your questions there for us. Prashanth, one question being asked is basically, you've got the pictures, you've got the story. How do you proceed next? I mean, in most cases, maybe you're commissioned, but when you're not, and let's say there are many photographers who go without commissions. I used to do that myself as well. How do you proceed next? Do you have any piece of advice over there?
I can tell you one thing. I never have had a press pass also till today. Now I think authorities have taken over. Now, for this kind of a panic and a global pandemic never occurred before, people have taken over. So they want a press card in place. So I have applied for one. So when I get it, I will. That is the reason this shoot is next week. Otherwise, I'll finish it this weekend, given my 14 days for another assignment. So the press card is very essential now. Unfortunately, it's required because that is one of the essential services is press media. That is why you are allowed to go. If tomorrow they remove that media from essential services, then I don't know how you are going to do it. It's going to be very difficult. It is a curfew situation. It is not that people are requesting you to be at home. Tomorrow, if all of us get out thinking enough is enough, I'm bored, I'm mentally harassed, they will going to get the army on the street and put us back inside. Because that is the only way they can also deal with it. This requires a war-like discipline, and this happened with our fathers and parents during the Bangladesh war. They have done it one round. They blackened out 6 o'clock lights of, no movement in the streets. They have done it. So it's not that it is going to be super. Maybe we are more indisciplined as a generation or more free thinking as a generation that we don't like it at all. But the point is that this is a necessity right now, given the pandemic that is coming our way, and it is still coming our way. It's not there to that extent, and the numbers are not right. There, but sure it is there. So I would say that press pass is essential. But imagine you have a story idea and you want to pitch, right? Most publications will give you a letter. And a lot of them will actually give you a temporary press card and stuff like that. They will give you.
But does the police kind of find that letter a valid document? A lot of times they sometimes just feel it's...
Now letter will be a little bit issue unless signed, but the press now, that's what people are asking, press card now. People are like, I have reminded press card to people, freelance people who have given me access before. Lot of organizations like Doctor Without Borders or UNICEF, if they want us to move around to shoot, they will give you the curfew pass or the access, But most of them are 1, 2, 3 day long for the assignment. They're not going to give you this eternal 1 year, 2 year press card because you're not free, you're not working. But I would say that coming to that point right now is a tough thing because there are a lot of photographers who are ready to go with press cards, and there is nothing, the shots or the story is still the same. Unless you have a very unique story, nobody will give you that kind of an open pass. So, but not that I'm saying that the unique stories don't exist. There are lots. There will be much more. There will be stories of survival. There will be stories of death. There will be stories of spread. There will be a lot of stories. So it's going to come up now. Everybody has taken a pause, but it's going to come back to normal like that.
Right. And which are the states that you have covered as part of your shooting this pandemic, photographing the pandemic? Which all states have or cities?
Delhi. I'm going to go to Punjab next week, but Delhi and Punjab. But you can't travel, right? Flights are off.
Yeah.
You can't travel.
Right.
Very tough to travel right now. Almost impossible. And I was happy that I had not traveled 14 days before the pandemic, which is a rarity because all the travels happened in cabs. So I was luckily not on an airplane. Yeah.
No, not airplanes, but sometimes, depending on the agency, if they are arranging like road transport or something with a special letter of access or something,
Yeah, so you can go.
Okay, that was So that was a question from Gokul. I hope I've got that answered. I've also got a couple of other questions that you have answered in the process. Another one of the members of our audience wants to know, how often do you come across Indian women photographers on the field? Now, herein comes the question of yes, women photographers, and this has been like a big debate, should photographers just be a photographer but yeah, would you like to answer something?
According to me, or when I started off photography, my 4 best friends in section are all women photographers, and they are still my very good friends. And the source for what to shoot and where to shoot today for this pandemic is Anushri Fadnavis from Reuters.
Yes.
She tells me where to go, what to do. So for me, I think I feel there has to be 50-50 balance. Forget photography in everything, because till that happens, I think we will be this skewed world that cannot get a balance. So according to me, it's very important that it doesn't matter for me. The gender is a secondary thing, but yes, there are a lot of women photographers, and there is I would say a very different approach when a woman photographer shoots a tragedy than a male photographer does. So because of maybe the upbringing, maybe the conditioning, I don't know, but it does. The approach gets very different. So it's important. I see a lot of women photographers in cities for sure. I don't know about the rural setup, but I have not seen many in the rural setup. But I see far more women filmmakers than women photographers. So that is something that I feel is photography is lesser from photographers.
Another question, Prashanth, that's come in is there a particular template for the consent form that you can probably share with everyone who's attending the session? How do you proceed to ask for the consent, and how do you convince the subject?
There are consent forms. A lot of different organizations have their own. I'm going to see if I have a English, Hindi, what version I have.
Or maybe what you could also do is share a sample that you use, maybe, and we can email it to all the participants who are,
If I put it on chat, can everybody read?
I'm sure. Just make sure that it's to all panelists attendees.
Where is the consent form question? Here.
It's there at the end, but it's in the Q&A. It's not in the chat. It's in the Q&A.
I have sent it there. It's a huge answer. So if he gets it, he or she gets it, it'll be good. So I have. Can you see the answer? Everybody can see.
You've posted it in the chat or
in the Q&A section answer.
One sec.
Can everybody see
it's in the answered section of the Q&A. So the Q&A has opened, answered, and this is in the answered section.
The chat section is not taking such a big.
We can see it. Yes.
Yeah. So that's one example of a consent form.
Right.
So it's like people read it and many people say no. We are 1.3 billion in population. I think you just move to the next person. There is no point arguing, that nothing is going to happen. And first of all, consent is not getting a thumb impression or just getting a sign. You have to tell them what is going to happen in the picture.
I was just coming to that how do you inform them? Because a lot of people sometimes don't understand this language, this lingo, English, and how
villagers today understand. Like, you tell them, ये WhatsApp में आएगा, आपके Facebook में जाएगा, news में आएगा, सब जगह आपका face दिखेगा, आपको चलेगा क्या? And they do say no. They want to take a conscious call because see, it's become a TikTok generation. We are still a WhatsApp generation. They are TikTok generation, next level. If you go to village, everyone is on TikTok. They're making songs, they're making films. It's like crazy, right? So I do a project for UNICEF in Shravatse and Balrampur in UP where I teach women to make their own films through their mobile, and they are super good. The collective is super strong. So
right. Okay. So since we have barely now 4 minutes, I'm going to take in the last question. And do you write your stories along the photographs that you take during a crisis situation? Like, how important is it for photographers to be writing what they are observing and what they're shooting?
Very, 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 very important to question actually today. If you are not a writer, filmmaker, storyteller, getting the right quotes, thinking end product of how it is going to look finally, and then having the control to be sure that you mentioned that correctly. It's very difficult to survive as a photographer. Just a very beautiful photo will make you good. People will recognize you, but to last longer, they need to know your opinion on a certain thing. So it's very, very important that we kind of finalize or write our stories, find our stories, look at what is important in a story and how do you break it up. All that is very important. So I do write a lot of my stories, and a lot of my stories I write to the extent that when I'm with a writer, I am telling them where to take the quote because I have a better photo of that person. So I go get the quote and the shot, and then I say, "Isse quote lena, isne ye bola, isse bola lena, ye tum quote mein likh dena," because I am thinking like a writer already. So a lot of writers say, "Ki tere se to jaane ki zarurat nahi hai, tu hi karke aa." So a lot of shoots writers don't come with. They just say, "Get us 4 quotes." So I just get a quote and rewrite it. So that has come to me with time. I've written a few stories myself. I am just not a good editor later. I can write a story first draft, but later I am get into this. I don't have the patience for editing that writing. So that's why I don't write stories all the way through. But I do have always my notes. So I have these notebooks that run forever. There are it keeps going on. Notes are being written every day on shoots.
Great. So thank you so much. We are pretty much at the end of our session. There are a few more questions that maybe we can answer them, in the Q&A section in text, because I don't think we have the time to answer them here. Thank you, Prashanth. Everybody who would like to stay connected with Prashanth, you can find him on Instagram as Prashanth Vishwanathan. See a lot of his work over there. And if there are any other questions, Prashanth did mention that he will share a lot of the tips and the presentation that he had made for us today. And he can share some of those details with our audience. And we'd love to hear from you again, Prashanth. Stay safe. And let's hope we get to do this again when there are some more stories that you can share with us.
People are saying thank you to you, Prashanth, on the chat window. If you have some time, you can look at those. And there are still some unanswered questions. If you can just copy them and maybe you can answer them later or something. While I figure out
trying to someone said that they're going to this one. I've asked you that a newbie is where to start work. Whom should you approach? Anonymous attendee. So it's going to be difficult to till she figures out. I'm answering questions. Okay, it is very difficult.
Right. Basically, if you're trying to make a photo book of your work, so
I'm going to go to that later. I ignored that question for a while.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I've been pushing you as well.
No, coming one day. I think this lockdown has helped. I've looked at archive. Finally, I've opened some terabytes of hard drive and looked at this. I'm like, okay, that's a start. So, as we want to start work, how should we approach? It's the first thing you should do is take your favorite photographer, go stand outside his house and start working. So you'll get an idea of the industry much better than you can ever imagine. Getting it as a job, because once you get a job, you're on a stage dancing. You're not allowed to practice anymore, and that's difficult now because the number of photographers are very high and the number of jobs are very less. So nobody's going to give you a leeway. I got a lot of leeway. I have done bad shoots and survived. So that's no longer a possibility now. So it's very important that you practice under someone you like, and then that gives you motivation, and then you can get onto a job and start to work and all that. First intern with someone you like. That would be my end of it. How to make living being street photographer, photojournalist? Same answer. Are you thinking about putting together your work as a photo book? If yes, on what topic? It's a thought process that has gone on for years now, and I think I am a short storytelling photographer. I have not done anything on one topic for a long term, but there have been patterns. Like, for example, I'll tell you, climate migration is a story I started shooting in 2006 and I've shot till this year, 2020. I did my last shoot. So there is like 14 years of different areas, ranging from South Tamil Nadu to all the way to Kashmir and Leh. So I've got maybe 20 states covered on that topic. So something like that, maybe I get together, but I think I'm still not done. There's lots more to shoot before I get that work together, So those are thoughts I have.
Okay. Thank you, Prashanth, so much. It's been quite an informative session, I hope, for our audiences. And stay safe, everybody. Don't get too excited to go out and shoot. It's as Prashanth mentioned that we don't want to miss the bus. I know that we want to be part of the scene and we want to have this work to show in our folio, but you really have to protect yourselves and realize what is important and what's not. So look forward to connecting with everybody again. We are coming up with some very interesting programming, including some curated tours of certain exhibitions and stuff. So stay tuned on our Instagram and Facebook. That's where we'll announce most of our programming, which is going to be virtual, at least for this month. And then let's hope situation gets better. Thank you. Thank you all for attending.